Gossip Talk Show's family is Nomsa here at Gossip Talk Show's Find Your Own Voice, Lead from Within. With me today, I'm with Grant Morrell, Shireen Lovegrove, and Amanda Murray. How are you guys?
Well,
Really?
good, thanks.
Awesome, awesome. I've just realized my mic is
How's
not
the
with me.
audience? You're well too?
So, our topic today is how to embrace your inner laziness and still get things done. So, how to embrace the inner laziness and still get things done? Yep, that's what we're talking about today. So, you've had that right. Sometimes we need to stop fighting laziness and start working with it. And so, in this video, we'll be sharing the strategies and harness those lazy moments, work masters, no harder, not harder, and things like that. So, what do you think about the topic, Grant? We still want to reach our goals, but we're feeling lazy.
I think it's a great topic. It's one that comes up very, very often in my coaching sessions with clients. Is that, it's how will we look at it in the world of NLP and hypnosis? We may call something a parts integration or a visual squash. Part of me wants to do this, and part of me doesn't. You get this dialect in your mind. This conversation going on. I want to do this, but I want to do this, but there's laziness. But really, I think what we need to explore as we go through is what is this laziness? What's causing this laziness? Because we know we want to achieve this in our life, but we self-sabotage, we do things, we get lazy, we get thirsty because when we need to do it, we need to, I just need a cup of tea before I do it. Oh, I just need a sandwich. Oh, I need to phone this person before I do it. All these things get in the way of us actually doing the things we need to do. But the question for me is why? And that's what I'd like to explore. Amanda, how about you?
I love this topic because I definitely go through waves where I'm very super motivated and I get a whole bunch of things done. And then there's times where I just even when I write in like my journal and like what I want to accomplish today, like it seems like it's really, really hard to just like get that motivation to get it done. And lots of the times it's like what's going on for me internally that's affecting my ability to complete those things. And so I know like that laziness is affects me when I'm struggling with like other things that are like internal, that and then they like show up in that external as like laziness or tired, or I'll binge watch Netflix or something like that when I'm struggling internally. Those things that I really want to get done externally don't get finished because of those internal struggles. And so I think this is a good topic because sometimes I think our inner laziness is really due to internal struggles. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I absolutely would agree with that. Definitely, it's an internal struggle of something. And yeah, I reframe my Netflix looking at Netflix on and on and on as TV yoga. The condition is that I'm always going to look for something I can learn in it.
Right.
Which gives me some sort of way of going, okay, I can justify being here right now and be lazy. And know that I've got all these other things to do. Yes, shouldn't do it too often. And it's really interesting when you start to just be present to what's going on, because there is something. It is something. I think most of us, when we're inspired, we will just do things, right? Because there's the stuff that's coming from within and we want to do and we want to create it. I think that's what we are. We are creatives. But what happens is something dampens the creativity. And it's probably because something is weighing down on us in some way that's causing this resistance to move forward, to do the things that we know we should do, right? So yeah, that for me, it is that internal struggle. So truly being present to that moment. And sometimes it may take a while. Sometimes you need, I think if you've been really pushing yourself hard or you've gone through a really tough time, sometimes we spend a lot of time in the doing and we forget the time in the being. And so our body burns, it gets tired, and we need to stop. And sometimes that is just the signal, stop. But you got to know, is this the signal for stop? Or is this the signal for avoidance, like procrastination? We're going to know what it is, because we can learn a lot in that stop moment, right? We can learn a lot when we're in that presence of just staying there and going, okay, I'm okay to do this for now. I know there's a reason. I don't know yet what that reason is, but I'm okay to do this now. And I think then when you do work, you do it a lot smarter and a lot quicker and more efficient, because new resources come in. That's what I kind of think about this inner laziness. I'm not sure whether it is really lazy or whether it's just lack of inspiration. Nomsa, what do you think?
I like when you guys talk about eternal struggle. And also, I like with Shireen when you talk about Netflix yoga, TV yoga.
My friend, my coaching friend, did that to me. Did that, and I tell you, I went, oh, yes. I like that.
Now I'm going to make excuse and say to myself, I'm going TV yoga. Shireen said the TV yoga exists.
There is actually a talk about it on TV yoga. So
I'm not sure whether laziness. I'm not sure whether laziness is a hidden strength. I think it's a hidden strength. Sometimes, like Sharini said, it's like maybe when we are lacking motivations, or sometimes it's just our body telling us that we need to regroup instead of like because if you force when you're feeling lazy, you can end up doing like seeking shortcuts and doing things. So, like you said, Sharina as well, is encourage us to work smarter, not harder. So I think that is really, really, really important. Bill Gates has a quote that says, on hiring lazy people to find the easier ways to do things, is to find the easier ways
that's
to do
true.
Yes,
To that.
what do you think about that, Grant?
Oh, yes, please. Yes, please. Hire people to make life easier. I have been having,
They will find the shortcuts.
yeah, absolutely. Because us human beings and entrepreneurs are the worst. We give them a plan that works wonderfully and they'll mess with it because they're entrepreneurial and they'll mess things up and we can complicate things. And then the trick is to simplify the great new idea. Um, I think I've developed a skill from or inherited a skill from my father, who was great at making complicated things simple. And I think part of my job is really doing this. People will overcomplicate things in their mind. They will look at things and I'll say, well, surely does it not just mean you need to do that, that, and that? And I'm like, yeah. Okay. But now we need to work out how your mind will allow you to just do that, that, and that. There's a concept that if you're selling to people, if people have got a big problem, psychologically, they feel that there has to be a complicated answer to a complicated problem. So there's a whole debate on that for another day. But quite often you need to do it. We've often said the analogy that if someone's overweight, there are some exceptions. I'm going to precursor it with there are some exceptions, but generally speaking, if we're overweight, we probably need to change our diet and do more exercise. We kind of know that, don't we? But no, we'll complicate it and we'll put so many other obstacles in the way. But fundamentally, if we'd done that, we would probably get quite a good result. Again, there are exceptions to the rule, but generally, but no, there's an example that we overcomplicate. And in business, we do this an awful lot. We always want to look for complicated answers. And because we want to put obstacles, I was coaching a very, very senior person, they're very senior in industry, and they're setting up an own company. And there was lots of little things that needed doing. And I came to the conclusion where I said, well, look, surely all you need to do is that, and you're up and running. And there was something, and we spoke around it. And I said, am I getting the impression there's some resistance from doing this? And they sort of smiled and looked up, and I thought, here we go. And they said,
what's that there?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they said, you're right. I said, what's going on there? What is it? I said, because, You're a smart woman, very accomplished woman, run a very, very big department in a very, very well-known household brand for many, many years. I mean, like decades. And this simple little thing you're not doing. What is it? And it was like, am I good enough? I'm like, are you kidding? You've been doing it for 30 years. You know, like you're just doing the same thing. And we laughed about it and we unraveled because I knew all the logic I could speak, all the logic all day long. And I go, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. But it wasn't going to happen.
Mm.
And this is why when I coach people, yes, I can teach business strategy all day long, but it's got to be the mindset first because until you unlock that, it's just going to bounce off. It's not going to go in. They're not going to implement it because we all block ourselves with stuff.
Mm.
And it can be laziness. It can be too busy. It can be, I've got other things. It can be, I need to make a cup of tea. I've got to take the kids here. We are wonderfully ingenious at coming up with reasons to not do things. We are the most creative species on earth for finding ways to not do things. And as I say, motivation is a big part of this. And you touched upon that nicely, Sheree, is that we always talk about being motivated towards doing the things you love. Very true. It's a very nice energy. However, as human beings, we're far more motivated to run from fear. An example is we run really fast and need very little motivation to run out of a burning house. We would run very fast, but we wouldn't need any prompting. We don't need accountability. We would do it. We run from a burning house and we walk slowly towards safety.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a great fear is a great motivator. And I think when we look at these things, we ask ourselves why we want to, and it all comes back to the beginning with me, is we look at passion. I used to talk a lot about following your passion. Passion's really important. But something I've come to discover from my coaches and people is that passion, as we've all discovered, I'm sure at one point in our life, passion can burn out. Okay. I had a business years ago and I fell out of love with my business. I reinstilled it, but at the time, the passion burned out. And passion can burn out in relationships. Passion can burn out in goals. But your purpose, if you have a sense of purpose, that burns for a long time. That can often outlive our life on earth. So if we start to look at what is our purpose in life, and please don't say to look after my family. Sorry, I know you love them, it's important, but that is not a purpose. That is a fundamental part of life. I mean something which is bigger than us, is bigger than our family, is outside of that, i.e. stopping starvation in Africa, something like that, something big. If you can find your purpose in life, whether it is to renovate the church in your local village, something, I don't know, something like that, that will burn for a long time. And that can help to overcome laziness because we all get laziness. But when you get that burning inside of you to do something, that's a purpose. We've heard the concept, haven't we, of paper, wood, and coal. Paper burns very quickly, very easy to ignite, very easy to get started. But it doesn't burn for very long, does it? It burns out pretty quickly. Wood, on the other hand, takes a bit longer, doesn't it? It takes a bit longer to get it alight, a little bit more preparation, a little bit more patience to get it burning. But it burns longer than paper. Once it's alight, it burns longer than paper. Coal, on the other hand, is really difficult to get alight. It takes quite a lot of effort, quite a lot of preparation, got to be in the right conditions, etc., etc. But once that's alight, that's hard to put out. That stuff keeps burning for a long, long time. Hence, why when we make a fire, it has paper with wood on top,
And coal.
that coal. You've got it. It takes all three elements. And I think as human beings, we need these three elements to overcome the laziness and to achieve our goals. That's what I think. What do you think, guys? What do you think of it?
I'm inspired about that because it always fits with the Trinity, right? The Trinity of things. Everything fits in threes almost. You've always got, whether it's Father, Son, Holy Ghost, whatever it is, it's always about thought, feeling, action, right?
Uh-huh.
There are all of these things. So it's interesting that if you think of the first initial ignition, which is the thought, the wood being the feeling, and then the action or the sustaining action is the coal.
There you
And
go.
then and then the thought that jumped up for me was, well, actually, coal, when compressed, becomes hydrolyzed and becomes a diamond.
Uh-huh.
Aha! Aha!
Yeah,
Now we've got
there we
even
are.
something more, more valuable, and we can sparkle and we can do all sorts of things. Yeah, that's. Oh, you've inspired me now.
There you go.
That's supposed to come.
That's the whole idea. I wonder if anybody out there is inspired by it. I'm
We'd
not
love to know.
checking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and checking the social media to see if anyone else is inspired by that, if anybody else gets that point and likes that. And if you've got any questions, just obviously measure it. Amanda, what are you thinking? What's going on? What are you thinking about all of
There's
this?
sparkles behind her there.
Yeah.
I love how you were talking about how like your passion can like fizzle, right? And it happens in like relationships and it happens in other areas of your life. And sometimes I think that when those things are happening, it's like what's going on internally that's causing that, right? And so what's your internal thing that's going on that's like, do I need to shift in a different direction? Do I need to leave this relationship? Is it patterns that are showing up for me of avoidance that I need to ultimately deal with, or am I just going to continue to repeat that pattern over and over and over again in relationship or in business, right? And so what is it that you can do to like commit to yourself so that no matter what's going on, you're still going to do those things that you promised yourself you would do so that you can show up for yourself in your best version of yourself as often as you absolutely can. And I think sometimes we forget that when we're like, okay, am I showing up as my best self today? If I'm really, really tired because I didn't get any sleep, then showing up as my best self might not be getting to the gym that day. It might just be like getting through work and coming home, making dinner and like just reading a book and relaxing and having a bath, right? But if I had a really good sleep, then that best version of myself is going to look a lot different because I'm going to like make sure I get to the gym. I'm going to maybe even like get some work done outside of work, and how we show up is affected by like sleep, what's going on internally, and other people in our lives, right? How other people are showing up. And so I think for me, when I don't get things done, it's usually something that I'm struggling with, like I said before. And so and that avoidance piece, what am I avoiding? Why am I avoiding it? And then how is that showing up for me in other areas of my life too? Because if I'm avoiding something in one area, it's probably that's showing up in other areas too, right? Because we're a reflection of ourselves, and the things that are showing up for us are a reflection of ourselves. So if I'm showing up as not getting things done and being lazy, that's a reflection of my what's going on internally for me. And so, and that will show up in business, that will show up. So if you can show up and be like, okay, what am I going to do today to be the best version of myself? And what do I need to get done to do that? And then actually do it, even when you're feeling so tired. Like yesterday, I had a really great day. I like went out for yoga with a friend after work, and then she came over for dinner, and then we like visited, and then I was like, oh man, I meant to start my blog, and I like was like, no, I'm still gonna do it, and I like because I had written it down that was something that I wanted to get done that day. So, but earlier last week, I was really struggling with other like things, and like writing my blog or sitting down or anything was like I just couldn't do it, even when I'd written it down and I promised myself I was going to work on it that day. Just like left everything basically for an entire week that I really wanted to focus on, and I didn't do like hardly any of the things that I normally do to like reach for my goals. But that's like this internal struggle that I was struggling with. And then, but like when we're internally struggling, how can we then turn it around so that we can get back to getting our stuff done, right? That's that piece, because we're all going to go through ups and downs and internal struggles, but it's like, how do we pick ourselves back up and keep going in a direction that's going to allow us to get our things done? And so I'm like, and also be conscious of the fact of when you're doing that. So when I'm recognizing that I'm being lazy and I'm withdrawing and I'm doing all of these things, like this weekend, I was like, okay, I'm gonna get up, and before my daughter gets up, I'm gonna go to a coffee shop and I'm gonna get all of the things done that I avoided all week that I wrote down every single day. That I was like, okay, I'm gonna like write my blog and I'm gonna like do these things on my social media and I'm going to work on this book and work on these other things. And so I just sat for like 2 hours at a coffee shop at like 7 a.m. till like 9:30, and I just like worked and I didn't have any distractions. And that was really, really good, right? Because I was able to like pick myself up and reset, but I could have let that go on for months, right? Of like, just like, I can't do it. I'm stuck. I have no motivation. But how quickly you can pick yourself back up when you are struggling with something, I think, is a reflection of that inner strength.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
A lot.
I love the idea of the reflection. What's going on the outside is showing up what's on the inside. And I'm kind of want to come back to a little bit back to the idea of when we have the assumption about laziness, right?
Yeah.
And there's something about laziness being a trait rather than just being lazy. So someone would not call someone who's just had a day off lazy, right?
Right.
It would be someone who is consistently failing. So, or consistently repeating a pattern of some sort where they're constantly doing what they're doing. So that's kind of running in the back of my mind right now. And I'm kind of thinking, well, if that's the case, then that's their underlying pattern. And I agree with Grant and you, Amanda, that we do need to have a look at what's running. But I also think there's something about that fundamental story we run that allows us to be in that laziness.
Yeah.
And the story that needs to happen where we become committed to ourself, right? To ourself and to our dream, whatever it is, our purpose, whatever it is that we want. So that was just, I don't know why that came up as something that I wanted to bring in, because I think for our listeners, I'm just, I really want them to hear that this is about something that's not just a day or 2 days or 3 days. This is about something that's happening in a pattern that we can call laziness. It's more of a trait rather than a one or two off incident. So that, we get, it's okay. Many busy people do have, well, they often fail to have those 1 or 2 days until they crash. But in general, we're talking about people that are consistently not doing the things that they could be doing on a regular basis. Yeah. So yeah, and I love this internal reflection, because I think that's such an important thing for someone that's in that laziness pattern. They're not always going to notice that they're in it, right? So part of their strategy, it's working for them. They manage to do things right at the end. And so they don't see this as a problem. In fact, they may be addicted to the fact that they like that little hit right at the end.
Yeah.
The deadline stuff. And so it's really about checking out what would be easier for you. If you I find that I get all the adrenaline running, and boy, I'm happy to do things right at the end. And yes, you get a lot of good work done, because guess what? That adrenaline is really spocking your brain big time. And you're quite creative. But it does mean that you get very stressed.
Yeah.
And it does mean, you get very stressed in the workup to that. And if you're actually working consistently through that time, like I'm planning, I'm creating a workspace, and deliberately knowing you're doing that, then when you want everything to come together towards the end, that makes more sense. But if you're not doing that, then it's definitely becomes a problem. So I think what for me is really about, again, as we were talking about, being present, right? Being present to the purpose all the time. How do we live in our purpose? not just habit that's outside us, but how do we live in the purpose so that we can start to work through and have the purpose work through us. Yeah. And then how do we stay committed to that when things go wrong or things take a U-turn in some way? How do we get back on track? And I love the idea which you said, Grant, you defined the difference between a passion and a purpose. I think it's so important because passion is about energy, isn't it? It's about having energy, and energy is burns out, right? It's unless it's being fueled all the time, which life is that roller coaster. It's going to ebb and flow, ebb and flow, ebb and flow. But if you have something that can ignite you, because you're letting this purpose flow through you, I think that just means that you start to do things automatically.
Yeah. It really is exactly this, and we do it borders on procrastination, which as we know is fear. It's masked fear, but people don't really stop and analyze. People feel. We are emotional beings, and we react to our emotions. We eat with emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've only got to listen to language. People say, "Oh, this is lovely, the food." It's not actually. It's really horrible, fattening, unhealthy food. It's really horrible food, actually. What you mean is it tastes nice and it makes you feel good. It's emotional food. We're using food as entertainment when it's really fuel. Yeah, we all do it to some extent, but you listen to people's language, it tells you how they operate. And we operate on emotions, not on logic. But it does take all these things. If you look at a car engine, you need fuel, you need air, you need compression, you need combustion to get it started. That's only to start. That's only to start the car. Then you have to transmit that energy into other things. And this is why I use the analogy of paper, wood, and coal, because you need all these elements. You need passion, you need purpose, and these things wane. And it overcomes laziness. Laziness is just a manufactured thing. We manufacture laziness because you say when we got our adrenaline, we're motivated. Now, I can be a little bit like this at times. I can sit there and think, I'll leave things to the last minute, and then I'll do it in a flurry, and I get it done, and I do quite well. And that's the problem. When you do well, you think, that worked.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. Yeah.
But you're working on adrenaline, and adrenaline is not great stuff to have racing through your veins. Actually, it's not really healthy adrenaline. It's not a great display. I was reading the other day about Paul McCartney. He's top 10 tips for songwriting. Now, I've known what I'm going to tell you now. I've known this for many years, that when the Beatles recorded perhaps the most, in fact, I think it was the most famous and the most widely sold album of all time, Sergeant Pepper, in 1967, they went to Abbey Road Studios and they worked like chefs. They went to work. They had tea breaks, coffee breaks. They worked like they was in an office making that amazingly creative album. You wouldn't think it, but they did. They scheduled to because they could manage their energy that way. Now, I know we'll say I've got a creative block, I've got to wait till it happens, and I will come up with these excuses. And it's partly true, but it's not a habit that I really want to make, because when you just do stuff, if you're ever writing an essay, I can't think what to write, and the teacher will say, just start writing. Just start writing. Write anything and pull out the bones later, because stuff my man is laughing at. And it works, doesn't it? I don't know, the cat.
I literally am like, I tell them to be like, I have no ideas. This topic is stupid. I don't want to write about it.
Right.
Like, just write anything that pops in your head. There's nothing popping in my head right now. Miss Cottrell, this is a dumb assignment. And I tell them to practice writing, just to get it all out. And they laugh. I'm like, you can write that. Just write it. Just start writing, because they're little. Like I want them just to practice, and they laugh at me. But it's true. Just like getting that down is so important.
Just start doing it, because then eventually the mist clears and you start writing stuff. There's a bit of an idea there, and then you start formulating it. I don't do much of my admin now, but when I used to do admin, I hate it with a passion. I'm pretty good at it, actually. but I really hate it. But here's the funny thing. I'd hate it. And once I started it, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, which is a stupid thing to be. But when it comes to invoices and stuff, you've got to get it right because I really don't want to have to do it again. So once I did it, I actually quite got into it.
Mm.
And I was like, well, I don't enjoy it, but I got engrossed, if that makes I didn't enjoy it. I was glad it was that, but I was engrossed. And I did it very accurately. Probably not the quickest cat on the block with it because it's not my thing. So I don't really do that myself now. But it was a good exercise to force myself to do it. So my mantra is kind of do things, even if I'm going to outsource it. It's a good idea to get the hang of it.
Mm.
Though I can do it if I really, really need to. But then, for goodness sake, outsource it and get someone else who loves it to do it. That's the whole idea. So I'll mentally discipline myself to do it if I need to, but I don't need to do it. I now get someone else to do it. And that's what I like to do because it overcomes that mental laziness, avoidance, procrastination, fear, whatever it is. But we don't spend enough time in our lives to actually sit there and analyze why we're doing these things. Yeah, we'll listen to our own excuses. You know, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I need to do this, I need to take the dog for a walk. Yeah, all these things have got to be done, but just schedule it out. The another great way, and I actually, oddly enough, was coaching a client this morning with exactly this. He's suffering from overwhelm. His business has really blown up and become very busy for him. There's other demands on him put on clients which he didn't foresee, and he's burning out. So I said, well, we need to systemize it. Look at this. Now got himself so tired he can't think. So what we need to do is refresh that mind. Refresh that mind so you can get a clean look at a piece of paper and then map things out. So really, what we're buying here is time, the most valuable commodity, the time to think clearly. Because when you can think clearly, most of these things can be understood. When you're understood, you can make a plan. When you can plan, you can find a solution. And these things will go away. But I think we all, if you're listening out there, you need to have a look at this laziness. Why you're not motivated? Trace it back. Be an investigator. Go back. What's really causing this? Because you're not lazy in some parts of your life. You know that. You're very energetic in some parts of your life. And we can all be a bit lazy in others. Why is it? This word laziness, as you said, is it really laziness or is it mask? What's really happening here? Is it a vow you're bringing down? So understand what the root cause of it is, work on that, and it can help to unlock it. Nomsa, what do you think? Do you find people with this? Is the laziness, do you know people who have this laziness that creeps in sometimes?
I think that sometimes when we're feeling lazy, sometimes it might be our mind just needs to actually, maybe we're overthinking things, or fear. Sometimes it can be fear, or sometimes it can be just lazy, or sometimes it can be our bodies telling us to stop. And then we see us as lazy. Like myself, I'm always on the go. But every time I feel like I don't want to do anything, that's when my body tells me that I think it's time to relax. It's time to time out from work and then come back later. So, but sometimes it could be people feeling that I like Amanda when you say children, when they're doing an essay, they're like, I can't think of anything. Me, when I'm doing an essay, if I can't think of anything, I just have to keep make up words. I just have to keep typing and just type and type and type. And if I'm not overthinking it, sometimes the things will just come back on its own. Or I just go back and look at the notes, what the tutor said. And then once I look at what is the expectations or the introduction, what they're looking for, sometimes the ways they come, but they come later when I'm like, I'm fed up with this. Or sometimes I go to Shireen. She tells me off. Yeah, so I think you just have to, or sometimes you just have to, the task that you have and make sure that you prioritize it. Sometimes they just put it into smaller chunks and stuff, and things that are learn to say no sometimes when things are not necessary, because sometimes it can drain your energy. So it's very, very important to prioritize things. Like with my company, I look at things that I have to do. Anything else that I know that is taking my time, somebody has to do it. I pay someone to do it. So in that way is I can do the things that I find it not easy, like the things that I know that they're in my lane, I can do it. By anything else, if I'm feeling like lazy, I have to check on with me. Why am I feeling that way? Mostly say that sleep, like Amanda said, maybe I've not had enough sleep or been going to bed late or simply forcing myself to be in front of the computer for a long time. So sometimes it's nice to just take some time out. But I agree also with Grant. Journaling makes me sleep. If I'm feeling lazy, no journaling for Nomsa. Because I'll be like, so it's nice to just go maybe a cold bath, cold shower. Cold shower makes you jump. It makes you wake up. Chelsea, when you're feeling that way, feeling lazy, go have a cold shower, and you'll be okay. What do you think, Grant?
Cold showers. That's been a really interesting concept for many. Many people I know take cold showers, or the James Bond showers they call it, where you take cold shower for 30 seconds and then a hot one. I've tried it. When I first tried it, it was by accident because I hit the wrong tap, and and that was a memorable experience. Let's just say that. Um, but it's not for me. But people I know who take the cold showers, even ice baths, they report amazing results. Focus. What apparently is happening with cold showers is that you're controlling stress. Because what happens, obviously, when you take a cold shower, you go, and it takes your breath away. Well, over time, exposure to it, do it for a few seconds, do it for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds. In the end, people do it for 3 minutes. I mean, it's incredible. What you're doing is you're controlling your breathing. Now, when you get stressed, what happens? We hyperventilate. Our breathing gets out. Because if ever you're stressed, people say, just breathe. And when you breathe, it feels better, doesn't it? Right? So in effect, what we're doing with cold showers, cold baths, etc., is we're controlling our breathing, we're controlling our reaction to an emotional episode, which is very important. Do I do it? No, I don't. If I'm really honest, I don't. No, I really don't. But I do understand the benefits of it. I would say be careful and be gentle with yourself and exposure. If you have a heart condition, I mean, I'm not a medical, I'm a doctor, but I'm not a medical doctor. So if you have a heart condition, it might not be great to jump into a plunge, a freezing cold pond. Maybe ask your doctor if it's a good idea. I don't know. But if it's a couple of seconds under a shower, that might not be a different thing, and gradually expose yourself. But people do report great things. Wim Hof, of course, is a great person for breathing techniques, plunge baths, etc. But what I would say, a more gentle episode of this, would be when it comes to looking at doing things, you've got a task to do and you don't particularly want to do it. You may want to start looking at some of the work which I mentioned before, which is the Pomodoro technique. Okay. This is a Pomodoro. It was developed in the 80s, if I remember correctly, by Francesco Cirillo, if that's the name correctly. And it's a great method. There's various tools, but a very short version of it is to take that task you want, you have to do, and it's too big. And as I always say, how do you eat an elephant? One chunk at a time. You slice it up into bite-sized chunks. In the same way you'd look at a road trip. If you're going to go from this city to that city, What do? You know you've got 100 miles of fuel in the car, so you're going to have to plan a pit stop to pick up fuel. You're going to need to go to the bathroom somewhere, so you need to stop somewhere else. You're going to need to rest and have a stretch and do this kind of thing. And you're going to need to do that. And do you want to get there before nightfall? Or are you going to stop in a hotel overnight and then start off after breakfast in the morning? You'll map it out, won't you? So you'll have a set of little milestones or goals, okay? Micro goals that make up the big goal. This is how you achieve anything. So it's about the skill of making the right size chunk goals. So in the Pomodoro effect, what do? You take your thing and you chunk it down into 25-minute chunks, i.e., you will set a list, and I'm a great checklist person. Do this, do that, do that, do that, do that.
Perfectionist.
Yeah, checklists are great because if you then put this with the Pomodoro effect, you sit here and you'll do the thing I don't want to do. All right, I'll just do it for 25 minutes. I think you can probably handle 25 minutes, right? You do it for 25 minutes, no distractions. You're not picking up the phone. You're not doing text. You're not doing anything. 25 minutes, total focus, because it's about increasing your focus levels. Focus for 25 minutes with a full knowledge, and you can have a timer if you want. After 25 minutes, no matter where you are, you stop. You get up, you walk around, you go to the bathroom, you stretch, you make a tea or coffee or get a glass of water. I don't care. You have a 5-minute break because you don't want to be sitting down for too long. That's not healthy for you anyway. So it's a great health thing to get up after 25 minutes. You go around, you refresh your mind, and then you come back and do another 25 minutes. Only 25 minutes because that alarm will go off and you'll get up and have another 5-minute break. After 4 of those, you take a longer break. So you effectively done almost 2 hours. What have you done? An hour and 40 minutes? Okay. And that's, you take a break, which is good because your brain can only really focus for that long properly to get maximum effect. Now, the great thing is once you achieve that goal, you go to that lovely tick sheet and you cross it off. Celebrate. You've got to celebrate all wins. You must celebrate when you do. You've got to pat yourself on the back. And I've said it 1,000 times. If you're in an office where they're stiff and starchy, they don't celebrate. Just go to the bathroom for a few minutes. Lock yourself in a cubicle. Yeah. No one will know, but it's important that you celebrate, because that rewires your brain. It rewards your brain with dopamine. Okay, it's a great chemical. These are natural chemicals that your brain develops, healthy chemicals. These help to re-inspire you, to reinvigorate you, to reignite the passion and attach you to your purpose. So if you haven't got a purpose in life, you want to start finding one, because this will be the genesis of what's going to help you overcome this laziness. Despite what's going on, I want to do it because the purpose is bigger than you, and it's way bigger than the laziness, and will help to draw you back into doing the things. And if you use the Pomodoro effect, the Pomodoro technique, this will help you do it into bite-sized chunks, which isn't too much. It's easy to get you back into it, and it exercises the muscle. And this is the way I help people overcome laziness when it comes to their goals and their passion. So if you want to embrace your inner laziness, embrace it, but still get things done, this is how you can do. You can embrace it by recognizing it, understanding what it really is, and then adapting these techniques to overcome it. That's my thoughts. But of course, there's more than one way to do it. There's more than one way. That is just a way. I don't know if anybody's online, anybody's answering, making any questions or comments or anything at all. Not sort of say. But in the meantime, Amanda, do kids learn the Pomodoro effect, or what do they do otherwise?
Oh, they don't know. Well, that's something really we should be teaching though, right? Is how to navigate that. And I think sometimes we like miss those things as children. And how would you approach that with children? How do you think you would approach setting that up with kids?
Approaching what we say?
What were you were explaining that effect? How would you approach that with
How
kids?
would I explain it to a child? That's a great question. I suppose I would just say, in simplest terms, reward. Reward yourself with a treat at the end of doing something. So take the whole thing and make it down into bite-sized chunks, as I've said. Because I love saying things simply, really. Take the whole thing. If you make it into small pieces, like, I don't know, if you're going to write an essay, okay, so how do you write an essay? Let's look at 4 parts of writing an essay. What is the subject? What's the outcome? What will be, how many paragraphs? What will paragraph 1 be about? Just map that out first of all. Just do that into 4 pieces. Or how do you write a book? You know, I mean, kids don't write books, I suppose, but if you did, well, what's the book about? Okay. What's it going to be called? What's the desired outcome for the book? What do you want to achieve, the reader to achieve at the end of it? And if you had to teach them 12 key points, what would the 12 key points be? Right, there's your chapters. Then after that, just take 1 chapter at a time. That's it. Just chunk it down into small chunks. So if it's a kid, I'd just say, look at what you want to do. How many bits are there to it? How long is each bit going to take? Just do 1 bit and then go and play.
Think we need to teach that to teachers too, because like often, especially when I am like having a student teacher or something in, they just expect the kids to know how to do things. And I'm like,
Right.
no, we have to like do 1 step at a time, and we have to like teach them, even in grade 5, like how to put sheets properly into your duodengs, because some of them won't know how to do it, or like how to write properly on the page, because some of them will write on it like flipped upside down with the holes on the wrong side and the like
Right.
large part at the bottom of the page. And I'm like they don't understand those things, that like some kids, like they're all at different spots, and like if you
Yeah.
really want them to do something, we have to like really like step by step by step by step. And even me sometimes as their teacher, like I remember last year I was like, okay, we're making this big display for the school and we're going to be pirates, and I want you to use one of these 2 videos, and you're going to create yourself as a pirate. We're going to take pictures of you and we're going to put them up, and the whole school is going to have like their faces around the gym as like either a pirate or a sailor or whatever. And at first my kids did these like itty tiny little bitty ones, and they were like all at the bottom of the page, and I was like, no, this is not what I wanted at all. So I was like, okay, we're gonna back up. We're gonna like restart this, and we're gonna do it all over again, and we're gonna do it step by step by step, so that I get what the vision was in my head. And I had to apologize for like to them for not teaching it right, because I like was expecting that they would be able to do what I wanted them to do, but they were not able to do it. And I see that with student teachers a lot, where I'm like, where they're like, okay, just go do this. And I'm like, oh, no. Oh, no. We have to
Right.
do, let's write an introductory paragraph. Teach us how to write an introductory paragraph. Okay, now what's your next topic going to be? And we like model it and then do it. Model and then do it. And that seems to like help us
Nice.
grow, is like model and then expect them to go do it, and just
Yeah.
1 piece at a time. You don't give them an entire essay to write and be like, go write it. Especially not in grade 5 anyways. It's like model and then you go do, and then model.
I'm a great believer from an NLP point of view. Modeling is a huge thing, and I get a lot of people who would teach stuff, and I'll always say at the end of it, right, so can you give me an example of that? Because I can't see that in my mind. What does that mean? You know, and it's a great, I think it's a great thing. When you think how you learn to fly, you'll read the section, you know, you'll read the book. Okay, that's the exercise. Then you'll go up with an instructor who will talk you through what you've just read. Okay. Then they'll say, look, I'll show you. This is it. I'll show you again. This is it. Now you try. You know, and that's kind of how you learn to fly. And it's a bit too, yeah, a bit less of that and a little bit more of this. Yeah, that's it. That's the idea. And that's how you do it. You gotta be shown how to do things, I think. Examples, I'm a great believer of examples. Examples is everything. Examples is everything in life. To do examples, is a great way to show people, because sometimes people don't know like the content of what it's going to look like, how much of this, how little, how loud, how soft. People need to see an example.
We have to create a map, don't we? We have to create
Exactly.
a map for us to be able to use and model. And we've got all those mirror neurons that are what is really what modeling is about. You know,
Exactly that.
helping us trigger those mirror neurons that trigger those areas of our muscles and nerves, so that
100%.
we copy automatically.
100% that, yeah. So that's I think it's a great point, Amanda. Modeling is great, and when we look at a lot of these things in life and in business, who's done it before? Who's already gone for? Unfortunately, someone at the beginning's gone for a struggle, but once they've learned how to do it, I always remember this analogy. I'm nuts about flying, right? And there's a certain cargo plane in the 1940s, and they, you can take all kinds of stuff on it. And at one point, they was trying to get a Jeep onto it, right? Big doors, get a Jeep. So they got a ramp, they got a Jeep, they got a team. And I think the first time they did it, it took them 13 hours to get the Jeep in. The second time took about 4.5 minutes because they worked out, this is the method of how it works. So what they do after that, they mapped it out and they modeled that technique. Don't get entrepreneurial with it. Just follow that. That's the only way it works. And that was it. But it took a long time to discover. So once someone's done the hard work and discovered it, don't overthink it. Just follow that model. If you think you can improve upon it later, that's fine. But first, do the model that's working. That's going to save you so much time and effort. And this is essentially what we do as coaches, as trainers. We help people with models that work, that gets them running. Because once they get running, they get momentum. Once they get momentum, it keeps that passion burning. It keeps that fire going. It keeps them on purpose, which means
Amanda, have you seen the time?
Yes, I was just looking at that and thinking we need to stop.
I think Amanda needs to go. We need to say the words of encouragement. Anyone with words of encouragement, guys?
Do what we said.
Yeah, do. Yeah, I think it's just really, stay present to what's going on. Have a look at the reflection, as Amanda said early on. Be aware that what's going on the outside is reflecting on our inside, and then be committed to the change. Live in the presence, live in that moment and that purpose. Yeah.
Awareness, analysis, plan.
Yep.
And embrace your laziness without feeling guilty, guys. Sometimes we make things worse and end up stressing ourselves for no reason. So if you guys are watching from YouTube, please do subscribe to our channel. On LinkedIn, please share our videos as well. And go to www.hseia.coach if you're looking for love, or if you're looking to find your own voice led from within. Just sign up and we'll get back to you. We have two groups, Unique Billionaire Mindset and Gossip Talk Shows. Please join the groups and be part of the family and live with grace, everyone. Not forgetting your Twitter. We love you so much. And please share our videos as well. God bless and live with grace.
Bye, everyone.